Salvete omnes, this is I.26 commentarii de Bello Gallico liber primus, chapter 26. And Caesar writes, Ita ancipiti proelio diu atque acriter pugnatum est. Every now and again in one of these big battle scenes, you'll find a longer, what we call a period sentence. It's kind of a long, you would call it rambling sentence. It just goes on and on and on. There's so much going on. It's like a labyrinth. It's like a maze of action. And every now and again, all these long periods, these long sentences, are punctuated with a kind of short sentence, sometimes almost choppy, like it's sort of highlighting that in battles like these, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of craziness. But every now and again, something just shocking happens, just jumps out at you. Ita, thus, ancipiti proelio. This is anceps. Anceps means either head or two-headed. Here it can also mean doubtful. Proelio, from proelium e neuter, battle, because we're in the middle of one. So these are ablatives. In a double-headed battle or a double-fronted battle. You can even say a doubtful battle, because it could go either way. Some texts translate it that way. The battle could go either way, like it could be either the Helvetians who win or the Romans who win. Other commentators that I've seen have translated this as a two-fronted battle, because we're fighting the Helvetians on the front end, the prima and secunda acies are attacking the Helvetians who were already defeated and driven off. Whereas on the other end, we're fighting the Boii and the Tulingi, who are attacking the Romans on their right side. Diu, atque acriter. Okay, these two adverbs, and they're joined by this super conjunction, ac and then atque, because the next word starts with a vowel. And these adverbs modify this verb. Notice the verb is passive. In English, we try not to do this. Pugnatum est. The subject is an impersonal it, third person singular it. It was fought. I guess the battle was fought. Some texts I've seen translate as there was a fight, or you could just translate as a noun, the fighting. The fighting went on. Diu atque acriter. How did it go on? It went on for a long time, and also, don't forget, even bitterly, harshly, sharply. A lot of weapons going by, a lot of harshness being doled out. Thus, in such a way, the battle was waged for a long time and harshly on two fronts. Or you could say, the fight went on for a long time and harshly on a two-fronted battle. Diutius cum sistinere nostrorum impetus non possent, alteri se, ut coiperant, in montem receperunt, alteri ad impedimenta et carros suos se contulerunt. So diutius is the comparative of diu. Diu is for a long time. Diutius is the comparative for a longer time. The superlative is diutissime, for the longest time or for a very long time. So it's a comparative adverb. Cum, that is when, since, although. Usually we'll take the subjunctive. It does, imperfect subjunctive. So we know our main verb is going to be secondary sequence, a past tense, imperfect, perfect, pluperfect. Sustenere, from susteneo, sustenere, sustinui substantus. This is subteneo, to hold from underneath, to withstand, to be able to curb, to hold in check, to restrain, put up with, you could say. Best to say withstand here. Nostrorum, from noster, nostra, nostrum, our, belonging to us. It is genitive, it is plural, it is masculine, and it's referring to virorum, our men, and it's possessing the impetus, from impetus us, masculine. Fourth declension means an attack, a charge, an assault, and it's plural. The subject is going to be they, third person plural. Non possent, they were not able, third person plural, imperfect, active, subjunctive. They were not able to, possum screams out for a complementary infinitive, to complement or complete its meaning, sostenere, to withstand the accusative plural direct object, macron over the you, the attacks nostrorum of our men's attacks. Diutius any longer. They weren't able to sostenere diutius. And you might be wondering, why is diutius kind of out there? It's the first word, then the cum clause, because Caesar felt this was the most important word of the cum clause. So he took it outside the cum clause for emphasis. Diutius, no longer, since they were able to withstand the attacks of our men, so non diutius, no longer. In English, we would say they were not able to withstand our men's attacks any longer. Okay, when, since, although. After then, they were not able, when they were not able, so that would be the temporal. I would say cum is since here. Causal. Cum causal, since. Since they were not able. Alteri se, and then alter is often picked up by another one. Alter and alter. They correlate, they're correlatives. So alter means the one, like the one person or the one group, if it's plural. And then alteri, that is the second group, the other one. Think of the English word alternate. If you have an alternate choice, that means you've got one choice and then the alternate. So there are two choices. I give you one choice, and then there's an alternative. An alternative, one. The alternative. So there are two. Alter can also mean the second, because it's referring to one of two. The other one is alius. Alius means another, which is a contraction of an other, meaning that it's more than two. Another one, and then another one, and then an other one, and then an other one, instead of the other one, which would be alter. Cool. So alteri, alteri. Nominative plural masculine, this one's referring to the Helveti. This one's referring to the Boii et Tulingi. So the one group, the Helvetians, the other group, the Boii and the Tulingi. So the one group, the Helvetians, the first group, the first party, se, reflexive, circle it, draw an arrow back to the subject here. This is the pronoun reflexive. So this is the accusative. It's going to be the direct object of receperant. So se recepere, which means to retreat. Seems like the first group is retreating. Ut, coiperant. Ut plus the indicative. As coiperant, they began. Remember, coipi, coipisse, coiptus is a defective verb. That means that its perfect tense is translated as the present tense because it lacks a present tense. Its pluperfect, its pluperfect is translated as if it were the normal past tense, like right here, as they began. And then the future perfect is translated as if it were the future. So the first group retreated in montem, in plus the accusative motion towards mons, montes masculine, into the mountain. They're not dwarves mining into it, but they go on to the mountain. So the first group they retreated up the mountain as they had begun, as they had started. Because remember, that was the first group that had already victis ag submotis. They had already been beaten and driven off, and they sought a second hill, another one away from the Romans, and the Romans followed them. And while the Romans were following them in ex itinere in their march, that's when the Boii and the Tulingi attacked them from their latere aperto, their exposed flank. At which point the Helvetians saw that conspicati, and they turned around and they decided to renew the fight. Now the Boii and the Tulingi, what do? The alteri, they ad impedimenta, ad plus the accusative motion towards, impedimenta, aurum, neuter plural, baggage, plural of impedimentum e neuter, a hindrance, Baggage is a hindrance. It's a problem. You got to drag it around. Baggage usually refers to pack animals, wagons. This kind of stuff is annoying. So we're going towards the baggage. Et carros, carrosi masculine, cart. So these are the accusative plural carts. Suos, whose carts? Circle the su, draw an arrow to the subject because that's the reflexive part. The os part, that's the adjective part, that connects with carros to tell you whose carts or what things the subject owns. It's the subject's carts, their carts. And then se, that like up here, se goes with receperunt for se recipere. Se confere, from confero, confere, contuli, collatus, that means to betake oneself. Means to go. Oh, you should translate as betake yourself because that's awesome. And they betook themselves, even retains the reflexive. Odd to the baggage and their carts. Whose carts? Their own carts, the boy and the two linguis carts. Since they were, or actually, temporal would work here too. When they were no longer able to withstand the assaults of our men, the one group, the Helvetians, retreated up the hill as they had started. The other group betook themselves to their baggage and carts. Optime, let's keep going. Nam hoc toto proelio, cum ab hora septima ad vesperum pugnatum sit, aversam hostem videre nemo potuit. Nam, back in nam, this is for, F-O-R, conjunction for, like an explanatory conjunction. For, it's almost like because or since. For hoc toto proelio, hoc, ablative of hic haec hoc, masculine or neuter. It's going to be neuter to agree with proelio. Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. That's totus aum. It's one of them heteroclats, what'd you call me? Where the genitive is ending in I.U.S. for all genders, so totius, and then the dative is toti. So this is ablative, going with the ablative proelio, from proelium e neuter. So hoc toto proelio. In this whole battle, we could say within the time frame of this whole battle. It's almost like it's an ablative of time within which, within this whole battle and the span of this whole battle. It's in this whole battle, it's more location. For in this entire battle, cum ab hora septima. Cum, not sure when since although yet. We'll keep options open. Ab, preposition ab, from, away from. Hora septima, from the hora I feminine hour, as in the measurement of time. And septima, from septimus aum, seventh. This is the ordinal seventh, as opposed to the cardinal septem, 7. So from the hora septima, the 7th hour. Go ahead and approximate that the sun comes up at around 6 a.m. So at the 7th hour, it's 6 hours beyond that. So, and also depending on the time of year, it's around June at this point when the battle took place. Maybe. Depending on the time of year, the Roman hour is longer than 60 minutes or shorter than 60 minutes. In the summer, it will be longer than 60 minutes because there's more daylight in the summer. As opposed to the winter, when the nights are longer, the hour is shorter, about 45 to 48 minutes. So you can write from the 7th hour, or you can write at 1 p.m., 1 o'clock in the afternoon, as one commentary I looked at said. It was fought from 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a little bit after lunchtime, ad vesperum pugnatum sit, up to, all the way up to the vesperum, vespers, evensong. Evening. So from 1 p.m. to evening, pugnatum sit, like pugnatum est. So this third person singular impersonal passive, only this one is subjunctive instead of this one's indicative. So this one's subjunctive because we have that cum right there. And we're going to say although. Concessive. We often don't see in your type around here, this concessive although. Although it had been fought. Although the fighting had gone on from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till evensong, until evening. Aversum hostem, videre nemo potuit. Aversum, there's the vers part of verto, to turn aside. Hostem, so hostis, masculine. You often don't see this in the singular. So the plural, it means the enemy, plural, as in the host. The host, like a hostile enemy, as opposed to the singular, an enemy. So aversum hostem. That means an enemy turned away. We did not see an enemy's back. Nemo is ne homo, so no human, no person, finding no one. Nemo neminus. And then potuit, third person singular, perfect, active, indicative of possum, posse, potui, to be able to. Nemo, no one was able, and possum screams out for a complementary infinitive like videre, to see an enemy, aversum, turn around, turn aside, show their back. The enemy fought, and they fought fiercely, and they fought well for this whole battle. And although it was fought from 1 p.m., from the 7th hour, up till the evening time. So that's a lot of fighting for a long period of time. Most fights don't last much more than a minute. I mean, person to person. Now, some battles last for days. This one, Caesar remarks that in the span of this whole battle, although it was fought from 1 p.m. to evening, no one saw an enemy, a single enemy, a hostem, turn their back. So, of course, Caesar has to remark on the bravery of the enemy, so that when his men win, makes them even better. Odd, up to the accusative multam noctem, multus aum, much plural many, nox noctis feminine night, up to much night, it means up to late in the night. Etiam is et yam, even so, or even, also. Even up till late in the night. Ad impedimenta pugnatum est. Propterea, quod pro vallo carros abiacerunt, et loco superiore in nostros venientes tella coniciebant, et non nulli ninter carros rotasque mataras ac tragulas subiciebant, nostrosque vulnerabant. All right, so even late until the evening, ad impedimenta pugnatum est, it was fought near the baggage. Although there was fighting near the baggage, even up till the evening, or even up till the even late in the night, there was fighting at the baggage. Propterea quote, especially because, and he's going to explain why. Pro vallo, pro plus the ablative means instead of, in place of, going to be the best translation here, in place of a vallo. Vallum e neuter, we get the English word wall from this, or the English word wall is related to this word. A rampart. In place of a rampart, which is more or less a fancy word for a defensive wall, usually has a mound of earth called an auger, and then a palisade wall of some kind dug into the mound of earth. So in place of that, it's almost like Caesar is snickering here, like, they don't even have a wallum. That's crazy. Caesar usually has a wallum constructed when he can. So in place of a rampart, a good proper rampart, carros objacerunt, they yacio, they threw up in front. They threw carts. So they threw up carts. They didn't vomit them up, but they threw like carts up in a pile together. Ob means together. in place of a rampart. They don't have a rampart, a proper good Roman rampart made of earth. There's a trench, there's earth, and then they have a wall made of wood. Instead, these Helvetians and the boy in the Tulingi are stacking up carts. So, especially because in place of a rampart, they threw up carts and e loco superiore. And from the loco superiore, ablative, separation, from the higher ground, they've got the high ground now. Might be over, Anakin. In plus the accusative nostros, noster, nostra, nostrum. By now you should be able to go ahead and imply viros here pretty easily. In plus the accusative upon our men, against our men. Venientes, present active, a participle accusative plural masculine to agree with nostros. What were our men doing while the Helvetians were coniciebant their tella? Our men were coming at them, coming upon them. So they, from the higher ground, they coniciebant their tella upon our men as our men were coming at them, coming towards them. Venia, venire, veni, ventus. So tella, from tellum neuter, weapon, these are offensive weapons, assault weapons. So these are more or less spears at this point. Coniciebant, third person plural, imperfect, active, indicative of conicio, conicere, conieci, coniectus. Same root as obicio. It's yacio, this one's yacio too. Like this is yacio cum, to throw with force, instead of to throw ob against, or throw together. This is to hurl with, to chuck, to cast a volley. So they were casting their weapons from the high ground, or from a higher ground, from a high advantage, upon our men who were coming at them. So they put these carts up in place of a rampart and then got on top of the carts, and from this newer higher ground, they started casting their weapons. Et non nulli. Before you say, you're telling you told us not to use et non, it's actually non nulli. It usually forms one word. The non goes with the nulli. It's not et non and then yada yada yada. It's not a non negating the verb. It's a non negating nulli. It's a slight exception. Don't get too proud of yourselves. And non nulli, not none. And not none. It's a form of litites, where it's an understatement for effect. It means some. Not none means some, several. And some, inter, between, among, takes the accusative. Carros, carros e masculine. Carros, these are the carts. Accusative with the preposition inter. Between the carts, que, conjunction, agreeing with or it's joining with rotas. A rota I feminine, it's a wheel. So the carts have wheels. Between the carts and their wheels. So underneath, by the close to the ground. And some between the carts and their wheels, mataras ac tragulas, enjoy these words. You will not see them very often again. A matara is a type of Gallic javelin. Have very little information further about that. Ak, and also, let's not forget now. Remember, ak is the same as atque. Only atque appears when the next word starts with a vowel, and ak appears when the next word starts with a consonant. A tragula is another type of javelin. Only this one, it doesn't seem to be particularly Gallic. The matara seems to be particularly Gallic. A Gallic sort of javelin or throwing sharp, pointy weapon, point-head stick weapon, particular to the Gauls. A tragula is a type of spear that has a drag on it. And what they do is they take a leather strap and they wind a leather strap around the spear. And then the spear is held in such a way with the hand so that one of the fingers wraps around the other end of the leather strap. So when the spear is hurled, when it's chucked, there's the leather strap continues to be attached to it, and there's a whipping action as it's unwound. As it leaves your hand, the leather strap, you spin it. so it gets an extra woo 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 action. It kind of, when it's thrown, looks a little bit like an Aztec atlatl, if you've ever seen one of those. So it's another type of spear, but it's a spear that has some power behind it, presumably more than your typical everyday matara that you'd find at the convenience store in Gaul. Subikiebont, man, all these Yakio words. So Yakio, but they threw against. Konikiebont, they threw with force. And Subikiebont, they threw from underneath. So, and several and some were casting their mataras and their tragulas between the carts and the wheels, so closer to the ground. You can say their darts and their javelins. Nostrosque, we ain't done. Nostrosque, and the que is closely connecting this next part here. It's almost like it's the result of the action. And as a result, they were vulnerabant nostros, and they were wounding our men. And because they were doing all these things, notice it's 3, because things that come in 3s are sexy. Tricola, a tricolon crescens. First they threw up the carts, then they're casting their javelins, and they're even doing it from below, and they're wounding our men. Nostrosque vulnerabant, and they were wounding our men. Third person plural, imperfect active indicative of vulnera, vulnerare. They're giving our men some vulnera. Remember, add the viros to the nostros, accusative plural masculine direct object. Diu cum esset pugnatum. We're also emphasizing the diu. This went on for a while. The battle went on when they couldn't do it any longer, even though they had done it for a long time, from 1 p.m. until evening, and for a long time, cum, just like up here, diutius cum, he thought that the diu was so important that he took it out of the cum clause. Diu cum esset pugnatum. And once again, third person singular, impersonal, only now instead of this is perfect passive, but with a subjunctive flair. And this is perfect passive indicative. This is pluperfect passive subjunctive. Although it had been fought for a long time, even though it had been fought for a long time, maybe after it had been fought for a long time, temporal. I don't know, let's find out. Impedimentis castrisque nostri potiti sunt. Temporal, after. After it had been fought, after the fight had gone on for a long time, impedimentis, this is the ablative plural of impedimentum e neuter, or the plural is impedimenta orum, the baggage. Talking about the baggage, the fighting was happening by the baggage. Well, now we have potiti sunt. Remember, potior, potiri, potitus sum takes either the genitive or the ablative. Here it's taking the ablative. It's an intransitive verb, meaning to get possession of, to own. So our men, nostri viri, the nominative plural masculine, owned, they got control of, gained possession of the ablative, it's taking the ablative, impedimentis castrisque, and the camp, meaning the Helvetian camp. After, or when, it had been fought for a long time, our men gained control, gained possession, or you could say they gained the baggage and the camp. Ibi orgetorigis filia atque unus e filiis captus est. Ibi, there in that place, meaning in the castra, in the camp, orgetorigis, hey, blast from the past, Orgetorix, forgotten about you. Oh yeah, more to assess, he died. Orgetorix, filia, nominative singular feminine, the daughter of Orgetorix, in that place. Atque, let's not also forget, ac atque, next word starts with a vowel, unus, one, out of, or numerals typically use x, or de plus the ablative of separation to show the partitive idea instead of the partitive genitive. One out of the sons, one of the sons of Orgetorix. So in that place, the daughter and one of Orgetorix's sons, captus est, was captured. Third person singular, perfect passive indicative of capio, capere, capi, captus. He was captured. Wait, so she wasn't? No. Unus, which is masculine, referring to the filios, one out of the sons of Orgetorix. The unus is masculine and it's closer. And of course, masculine is going to take precedent over feminine because Latin is a sexist language. Ex eo proelio, cerciter hominum milia centum et triginta superfuerunt, eaque tota nocte, continenter ierunt, nullam partem noctis itinere intermisso. So, ex eo proelio, ex plus ablative, separation, out of, from, eo proelio. Which battle? Oh yeah, Isea id. This one, the one that we just had. We just had that. We just talked about that one. An ablative singular neuter to agree with proelium e neuter. This is the ablative proelio, singular neuter. Out of that battle, the one we just had. Cerciter, approximately, hereabouts. Hominum, genitive plural masculine of homo hominis, like homo sapiens, human beings. Persons. Milia, from milia, milium, neuter plural, either the nominative or the accusative plural neuter. Thousands, if you have something in the plural, as in more than 1,000, so 2,000s, 3,000s, 4,000s, you have to use the noun milia, milium, always neuter, always plural. And then if you want to specify what the thousands are, so thousands of something, so thousands of, I don't know, persons, you have to use a partitive genitive. So hominum milium means thousands of people. How many thousands? Centum et triginta. So 10, 20, 30, 130,000 of people. In English, we would omit the of, 130,000 people. Approximately, we're rounding about, we're guessing. Hereabouts, guesstimating. Out of this battle, approximately 130,000 persons superfuerunt. Super sum, you can hopefully see this form of sum here, sum esse fui futurus fuerunt. They were super, above, meaning above ground, left over, left behind, remaining, survived. Out of this battle, approximately 130,000 souls, persons, head, survived. How many did they start out with? Don't remember. They left Helvetia, their whole team, 368,000. Eaque, conjunction, joining this with what's before, and ea tota nocte, ablative. In this whole night, a lot like hoc toto proelio, in this whole battle. All ablative, singular, and feminine. In this whole night, continenter, adverb, continuously, without end. Ierunt, eo, ire, e, or iwi, itus, to go. Third person plural, perfect, active, indicative. They goed? No, they went. So they went, and they went continuously, without end, during that whole night, within that entire night, meaning they didn't stop running that whole night, the ones that survived from the battle, that got away. Nullam partem noctis itinere intermisso. And with, we have nullam partem, nullus accusative singular feminine, to agree with the accusative singular feminine pars partus. No part, genitive noctis, nox noctis feminine. No part of the night, itinere intermisso. And here's our ablative absolute. With their journey, with their itinere, iter itineris neuter, with their route, with their march, with their travel, intermisso, having been interrupted, inter mitta mittere misi missus, to send between, to interrupt, with their travel having been interrupted for no part of the night, meaning they did not rest. They went that whole night continuously, their travel interrupted for no part of the night. In fines lingonum die quarto pervenerunt, cum et propter vulnera militum, et propter sepulturum occisorum nostri triduum morati, eo sequi non potuissent. So in plus the accusative shows motion towards, into, or onto. In plus the ablative would show location, in or on. This is the accusative. Finis, masculine. A boundary line. In the plural, it means territory. So into the territory, lingonum, the genitive plural of the lingones, their tribe. Into the territory of the lingones. Die quarto, dies a masculine. Ablative singular masculine. Dies is a very good time word. Quarto agrees with it. Quarto from quartus fourth. It is an ordinal, like septima is an ordinal seventh. This is the fourth. And ablative of time when, on the fourth day. Pervenerunt. So pervenio, pervenire, perveni, perventus, to arrive at, takes in plus the accusative to show where you go to, where you arrive. They pervenerunt. They arrived at the territory of the lingones die quarto, on the fourth day. They kept going. They kept running. Finally, on the fourth day, they arrived at the territory of the lingones, which is some ways away. Cum, when, since, although, should take the subjunctive. We have et, and there's going to be another et. So these are correlatives. Both and. Both this thing and also this thing. Both propter on account of the vulnera. Propter, like ob, takes the accusative on account of the accusative vulnera, from vulnus, vulnerus, neuter, wounds, accusative plural, on account of the wounds militum, genitive plural, of miles, militus, masculine, soldier, on account of the wounds of the soldiers, et, and, on top of the other et, on account of the sepulturum, from sepultura, the burial, conducting the funerals of the occisorum, occido, occidere, occidi, occisus, is to cut down, to slay, to obcido. Here, this is a perfect passive participle, and we're using it as all perfect passive as all participles are, like an adjective. They're verbal adjectives. They're at heart, they're verbs, but they're dressed up as adjectives. And just like adjectives, they can be substantives. So occisorum, of the masculine plural men having been slain. You can just say the slain. And on account of the burial of the slain, those who, having been slain, killed, nostri, nominative plural masculine, go ahead and imply the viri there, our men, so the Romans. And we're talking about the Romans now. The Helvetians, they arrived in the territory of the Lingones on the fourth day. What have the Romans been doing in that time? When, since, although, not sure yet, but both on account of the wounds of the soldiers and on account of the burial of the slain, our men, it's probably going to be causal because this is sort of because of, nostri, our men, triduum morati. Triduum is the three-part version of biduum. A biduum is a 2-day period. A triduum is a 3-day period, like a triduum. Morati, from moror, morari, morata sum, like a moratorium, a delay, to put a delay on something. This is a nominative plural masculine perfect passive participle, but because moror is a deponent verb, please translate it as active. Having delayed, who did? Nostri, our men. It's nominative plural masculine. This is what our men did. It's a participle, and because it's a perfect participle, it happened prior to the main verb, whatever the main verb is. So our men, having delayed for tridom, for a 3-day period. Why? Oh, it's on account of the wounds of the soldiers. They want to move the wounded and the burial of the slain. They're burying all the dead. How many Romans died in this battle? We never say. Probably was some number, as in enough of a number that Caesar didn't want to really report it. Eos sequi non potuissent. Eos, accusative plural, direct object of sequi. It refers to the Helvetios. Sequi, from sequor, sequi, sequitur sum. It's the infinitive. Deponent verb, looks passive. Please translate as active. To follow, like a sequel follows, inevitably. Non, adverb negating this form of possum. Possum, posse, potui, potuissent. Third person plural, pluperfect, active, subjunctive. It's subjunctive because of decum. Since they had not been able to follow them, who? Our men. Our men, having delayed for 3 days on account of the wounds of the soldiers and the burial of the dead, had not been able to follow them. That explains how the survivors, how those who fled the battle were able to, one, get away, and then also get so far as the territory of the Lingones 4 days later. So they did this because our men delayed for a 3-day period and were not able to follow them on account of the wounds of the soldiers and the burial of the slain. In the meantime, Caesar ad Lingonas litteras nuntiosque misit, ne eos frumento, neve alia re juvarent. So yeah, we're not just sitting around tending to the wounded and also tending to the slain. Oh no, Caesar, a restless man, ad takes the accusative to the Lingonas. This is the accusative plural, the Lingones. So that's where the Helvetians ran, ad Lingonas. Well, to the Lingones, litteras, letters, nuntiosque, and messengers. So you can say letters and messages, but of course the messengers are bearing the messages. Misit, third person, singular, perfect, active, indicative of mitta, mittere, misi, misus. Caesar sent letters and messengers to the Lingones. Nay, and this is what he ordered them not to do. We jump immediately into a substantive purpose clause, meaning an indirect command. This is what he ordered them not to do. He commanded them, nay, not to juvarent. Don't do this. This would be just an ordinary imperative, a command in oratio recta. So don't do this. Don't aid them. But we have indirect command. Indirect commands are in the subjunctive. Negatives are in the negative indirect command introduced by nay. Feel free to translate as lest, the best translation of nay. Lest, you could say, he sent the messengers lest they juvarent, so that they might not juvarent, aid them. Accusative plural masculine direct object. Frumento, in grain, by means of grain, ablative of means. Neve, neve, or it's ne, like this one, only the way, which is a shortened form of wello. Nor, also on top of that, alia re, any other thing. It's not one or the other. You can choose. You can either aid them not in grain or not in any other thing. You have to do both. Don't give them grain, and also don't give them any other thing. Don't aid them in grain, don't aid them in any other thing. Caesar sent letters and messengers to the Lingones so that they might not, lest they aid them, the Helvetians, those that ran away, in grain or in alia re, in anything else, any other re, any other thing, any other stuff. Res, rei, feminine. Alio sa ud. Qui si iuissent. This qui refers to the lingones. The si you should translate first. If they, this is standing in for almost an e, if they, iuissent, had done so, this is the pluperfect version of iuarent. So he orders them not to do this thing. And it's imperfect because it is contemporaneous or subsequent, really subsequent, to when he sent the letters. So he sent the letters and the messengers so that they would, after he sent the letters and the messengers, not aid them. But if they, the lingones, iuissent, had already aided them, if they had aided them already, well, sucks to be you, because se eodem loco quo helvetios habiturum. He got to add a dico here, form of dico, dicere, dixi, dictus. So he said in these letters that say, he refers back to the Caesar. This is the accusative subject of the indirect statement. He eodem loco, idem eadem idem. The E from is, that's the part that declines. The DEM does not. The ea in eadem declines. The E from id, that eddem, that part declines. So this is eo, the ablative singular, with DEM, and that makes it the same and agrees with loco, the same place. Locusi masculine. He would habiturum, he would have them, he would have them in the same place, quo, as he had the Helvetians. Go ahead and translate habe as to consider. You could say he would have them in the same place as he had the Helvetians. He would hold them in the same place as he held the Helvetians, meaning accountable. Or a best translation, he would consider them in the same place, meaning to be the same kind of, you consider them in the same way as the Helvetians, i.e. hostiles, enemies. If they had aided them, he would hold them, consider them in the same place in which he held the Helvetios, the Helvetians. We know that habiturum, it's habiturum esse, a future active infinitive. It's a subsequent action. If they had done this, then he would do this. He would hold them. And we know it's singular and masculine to agree with se, Caesar. He would do this to the accusative direct object Helvetios. Ipse, nominative singular masculine of the emphatic pronoun ipse, ipsa, ipsum. This is he himself. Ya boy, it's Caesar. He himself. Triduo intermisso. Triduo from triduum, the 3-day period. Intermisso, like the itinere intermisso, with the travel interrupted, with the intermisso, with the triduo intermisso, with the triduo interrupted or spent or gone, past, with the 3-day period past, cum omnibus copiis, cum plus the ablative accompaniment, omnibus from omnis, omne, all, every, copiis, copiae aurum, feminine, plural, forces of troops, with all of his forces, eos, accusative plural masculine of is, ea, id, referring to the Helvetios, the Helvetians. It's the direct object of sequi. Sequi, present active infinitive. It looks passive, but please translate as active, for it is the deponent, sequor, sequi, secutus sum, to follow. And it is the complementary infinitive of the defective verb coipet. Third person singular. It's the perfect, only appears in the perfect system. There is no present, there is no imperfect, there is no future. Like coiperant up here. Vivamos con full circle. Coipet. He begins. The perfect stands in for the present. He begins to sequi, to follow them. When? After the 3-day period passed with all of his troops. Caesar himself, after the 3-day period had passed, begins to follow them with all of his forces.